Boxing King Media in association with Box Store. With Pauli the Magic Man, I've been a big fan of you over the years, and it's nice to know that you like our Instagram content as well.
Yeah, it's good, fun Instagram content. Like I was just telling you, man, if there's good content, I engage.
I appreciate that, man. So yesterday I saw an email saying Pauli Malignaggi is going to be at this event for Boxer UK. What brings you back to the UK, Pauli?
Yeah, just the excitement of the Ben Whittaker of the Whittaker signing, and also the show on Saturday night. Boxer has a show on Saturday night in Manchester, so I'll actually be going from here to Manchester.
I think I spoke to you a while ago and I told you the UK fans love listening to you when you're on the comms. Can we say that Pauli Malignaggi is back in the UK working on the comms, etc.?
Possibly in the future, yeah. You know, right now I'm just kind of with the team, with the Boxer team. You never know, in the future we may be back on comms again. We'll see how things play out. But in the meantime, I'm just kind of mingling back with the crowd and just watching the UK boxing scene, because it's always an exciting scene to be around, between the exciting fighters, very good high-level fighters, and of course the fan base is always a lot of fun to be around.
What do you know about Ben Whittaker?
I know that he's the Olympic silver medalist who didn't want the silver medal, holds himself to a higher standard. Terrific amateur standout, charismatic figure. I think now with the addition of Sugar Hill in the corner, I think he's ripe for a perfectly placed promotion to kind of put him up and really showcase all of his talents, all of his skills, and not just all of that, all his marketability as well. So I think what my favorite thing about him, I know there was a lot of controversy with that silver medal, him removing that silver medal at on the Olympic podium, but I love a fighter or an athlete in general that holds himself to the highest standard. He's not being disrespectful to anybody. He just feels like he should be better than a silver medal, and I love that. I love, because there could be a lot of people in that moment that will be proud of that silver medal. And you know what? Rightfully so. I'm not knocking it, but the fact that he won a silver medal and he holds himself to the standard of gold, I don't know. For me, it shows that how hungry and how much desire he still has. There's a lot of unfinished business in his mind as far as his boxing career goes, and I look forward to watching that unfinished business get handled and settled in his professional boxing career.
You touched on charisma. You was big on charisma yourself. How important is that with regards to him, like that he keeps that going now in the pro ranks?
I think it's very important. Fighters are always exciting, right? Especially good fighters. People get excited to talk about them and watch them. But they like to also see people like to see a little bit of themselves in their fighters, in their heroes. They like something to relate to. And if they can't relate to a person, sometimes it's hard to kind of root for them. But if you got a charismatic fighter, somebody who knows how to speak, how to have a good public image, who knows how to engage with fans, people can have that relatability to the person, and it makes them want to root for him more and more and more. I mean, Ricky Hatton was a great example of this. He was a terrific fighter, but at the same time had a relatability to everybody, and look how much he used to fill out arenas. So I think it's very important, and not enough is said about that, because we focus so much on the talent pool. And of course, Whittaker has all the talent in the world. That's already been proven in his amateur career. But the fact that you can sell yourself and market yourself in that relatability cause, the marketability, and being a charismatic person, and being somebody that can be comfortable around people, and people can be comfortable around you, not just media, but also people in general. I think it goes a long way towards pushing your brand to a higher level, especially in the social media age.
Well, if Ben Whittaker does watch this, I think that's great advice for an upcoming fighter, especially for somebody who's been there, done that. Just want to quickly move on to the Canelo fight. Obviously, you've been quite outspoken about Canelo in the past. First of all, what did you make of the fact that, him at 174 pounds and the size that he managed to put on? What do you make of all that?
Yeah, he put on the size, but he didn't look very comfortable. I've never really seen Canelo as a guy with a fast pace, and that was one of the things that worried me about the fight for him in the Bivol case, was because Bivol always has a pretty quick pace he fights at, And I was wondering if Canelo was going to be able to force Bivol to diminish his pace, like he does to a lot of fighters. But Eastern Europeans are hard-headed, man. They're more stubborn. You saw that in Golovkin as well. You can say, he forced Kovalev to back off, but Kovalev was kind of half mentally checked out already since the Ward fights. I don't see Kovalev as the same crusher mentality he used to have. But think about the Golovkin fight; he wasn't able to force Golovkin to respect him, and they went at it, in good fights. But I felt like Bivol was going to be the same way. While in reality, Saunders and Caleb Plant, though good fighters, sort of started to diminish their level and gave Canelo what he wanted and let him stay comfortable in the fight. not only did Bivol not do that, but then Bivol also upped the ante and started raising his game by gaining more confidence. This is a guy with a tremendous amount of amateur experience. And again, those Eastern Europeans, they have that switch. When they're in their prime, they have that switch where they're just hard to break mentally. And so it was always going to come down to, mentally they were probably going to be even. So it was always going to come down to physically who was going to have the advantage. And with the pace Bivol was able to force, Canelo was never able to keep up, But I do think that a lot of it had to do with the fact that he's got this extra weight on him. It's not a matter of what you walk around at. It's a matter of what you're used to fighting at. That you're carrying that weight around inside the ring while you're fighting. Trust me, I just did a dumb little exhibition last October, and I was carrying a lot of weight. I was getting tired, just because I know how to box, but if I'm boxing at a heavier weight and I'm not used to carrying that weight, I'm like, oh man, it's kind of tiring. So for Canelo, it is not a weight that he's used to boxing at or competing at. He may walk around bigger and whatnot, but in a competitive atmosphere, to have to carry around that extra weight now, it can be a little bit more difficult to get used to. Yes, other fighters have done it. Guys like Roy Jones put on weight and stuff like that, but it's not always that easy. It's not, people just think like, oh, these guys train and they're in shape, but I'm telling you, man, your body also has that muscle memory, and Canelo's muscle memory is not at light heavyweight.
Is he capable of fighting in a rematch and beating him? Because obviously Mike Tyson's dropped some advice to him. Even if he's able to take that advice, do you think he's capable of beating him?
I don't think he's able to beat Bivol, no. I don't think he'll be able to beat Bivol. I've never seen Canelo able to raise the level of pace to his game. He kind of fights at a comfortable pace, and if he's out of his comfort zone, I've never seen him be able to raise that pace to where it was needed. Even in the first Golovkin fight, when he was, what we all felt he lost the fight, I don't think he was able to raise that pace, So he would have to do things that we haven't seen him do. And that's more mental than it is physical, because I think he's in shape, and also now he's more used to the weight, now having fought this fight and also having fought Kovalev at light heavyweight. Is he able to make a mental decision to go beyond comfortable by raising the level of his pace? Because when you fight at a pace that you're not used to fighting at, you're going to a place where you're uncomfortable. I didn't see him trying to make that decision late in the fight, but maybe in a rematch he can mentally put himself in that position, and then we'll see. But I've never seen him fight at a pace that is different from what he's usually fighting at, no matter what part of his career we're going now. So, and Bivol makes his bread and butter on that. It butters his bread on that pace. He doesn't throw every power shot hard. He throws a lot of straight punches, so you can get off a lot more punches that way and sort of put a guy on the back foot. And that's what it was doing to Canelo. So I don't see the style matchup being very advantageous to Canelo. But credit to him, because remember, he could have went and fought Makabu, which, of course, he would have been fighting at a heavier weight, okay? So maybe he would have got a little more tired. But also Makabu, quality-wise, it's not Dimitri Bivol. Like, you went for the light heavyweight title. There's not a lot of soft spots to go here. I mean, you've got big punchers like Joe Smith and Artur Beterbiev, who are going to fight each other next month. You had Dimitri Bivol. I mean, those are basically your options for world championships. It wasn't a lot of places to go there. And Bivol being undefeated and looking like a guy who was always going to be tough to beat, you got to give him credit for choosing that instead of Makabu.
Valid point there. And a quick one on Tyson Fury. Do you think anyone in this era is capable of beating him if he continues to fight?
Fury, I think Fury's the best heavyweight in the world right now. I don't see anybody being able to beat him, but I also have a hard time thinking he's going to fight again. I don't know. I think this time I believe him that he's going to retire. We'll see. It's going to take a lot to get him to come back, because he can remain a viable name, a viable brand, not fighting. He can do exhibitions. He can do WWE. Speaking of charisma, he's one of the most charismatic guys in entertainment in general, not just in boxing. So I think he can keep, his brand is so good right now, and I think that he can just go off and retire and still keep his brand huge while maintaining a mainstream presence. People will be calling for him all the time.
Last one, Paul. Do you want to show us your hands? Because I've followed your career a long time, and the amount of times I've heard Paulie's had another hand operation. That's a lot of scars, man.
That's a lot of scars. Yeah, I got them over my knuckles right here. I've got one across my hand. I've got a couple that are coming vertically as well. Yeah, a lot of hand injuries, a lot of hand surgeries. People sometimes forget about that. They kind of put that to the side when they talk about the things I had to endure in my career. A lot of times I hear the saying that Pauli overachieved what he had. I think I underachieved, so to tell you the truth, because I had a lot of I was very gifted physically, but I always dealt with a lot of injuries, and most of the time I was with promoters that had me on the B side, so they weren't promoting me on the A side. So I had to kind of go into people's hometowns and fight fights on my opponent's terms and not on my term. And still I was able to accomplish what I accomplished. So despite all these things, listen, I'm grateful for the career I had, but if I could have one thing I wish I could have had was healthier hands. Because I was always willing to push myself against the best, but I wish I would have had a little bit healthier hands. But hey, no regrets. My career was good enough to where it's allowed me to cross over into the media side of the sport.
I think, to be fair, it's truly remarkable what you've managed to achieve based on one hand and a jab.
Yeah. I had to educate my left hand. I had to figure out ways to box one-handed a lot of times. A lot of times I think people didn't notice I was fighting one-handed. I was boxing so well one-handed. I won fights one-handed. Shoot, I fought the bare knuckle fight one-handed, and the commentators never once mentioned the fact that I was only using one hand. That's how natural I looked, and that's how easy I made it look, despite getting robbed. So I don't think people realize that, things I had to go through, but it's okay. I'm still glad to be a part of the sport in some way.
Pauli, I could talk to you for hours. Thank you for your time. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.